Hey guys, John V from PhoneArena here. You're watching our video review of the new Moto X. Last year's Moto X was highly acclaimed and well received by people, but it didn't quite prove to be as successful compared to the other flagship devices at the time. With this year's model, the new Moto X sees a big change. It's enhanced in every way, from its design, its display, and even software experience. We see upgrades everywhere, but the more important part about it, it still pays homage to the principles of the Moto X. At its core, the new Moto X bears the same foundational design characteristics we saw with last year's model. So that includes its arc casing, the dimpled Motorola logo in the back, and the slick customization. What's different though is its size, which is significantly bigger this time around due to the larger display. On top of that, it sports an aluminum frame that wraps around the entire edge of the phone, giving it a more premium quality and sturdier construction. Another new element is the availability of a leather rear cover. Now, our particular model bears this new finish, but as much as we appreciate its added appeal, it's prone to blemishes from scratches and scuffs. Yeah, it has a splash guard water repellent coating to ensure it'll be protected against minor things, but it's not entirely waterproof. Overall, the new Moto X has the eye-catching looks to make people perk up and take notice of it. The button placement and ports are situated in nearly the same locations as before. Now, it looks like it has stereo speakers, but the top one is strictly reserved for the earpiece, while everything else is outputted to the bottom one. Noticeably absent, unfortunately, is a micro SD card slot. Although it's tough to make out with the black finish of the front casing of the Moto X, there are actually infrared sensors on the corners of the front panel that are used with the phone's new gestures, which we'll talk about later on. Sizing up to be more of a flagship thing, it's flaunting a 5.2-inch 1080p Super AMOLED display with Gorilla Glass 3. Indeed, it's not Quad HD, but 1080p is something we feel as sufficient to give everything a crisp look to it. Not surprisingly, the screen of the Moto X has a profound bluish tone, which makes sense because of its color temperature of approximately 7,000 kelvins. Now, AMOLED technology has seen advances to rival the color accuracy of LCDs, but this one produces oversaturated, inaccurate colors. On top of that, its maximum brightness output tops out at a lowly 385 nits, making it rather difficult to view outside. Looking at a big picture, one could argue about that the display has some milder qualities to it, but quite frankly, it's still an attention grabber thanks to its crisp looks, fantastic view angles, and those vivid colors that radiate outward from the screen. True to its roots, the new Moto X follows suit by again presenting us with an almost stock Android 4.4.4 KitKat experience. Now, rather than piling on new features, they've instead focused on enhancing the ones they have already established. This is something we accept with open arms just because we prefer an experience that's intuitive, simple, and straightforward. Best of all, it will more than likely receive future Android updates faster than those with heavily customized UIs. Moto Assist has been expanded to increase its functionality to a greater degree. For example, the phone can now read our text messages while we're driving or while at home. And at night, the phone will automatically go into quiet mode to prevent those unwanted calls from waking us mid-sleep. Moto Display relies on the IR sensors around the display, so we can wave our hand over it to display or quickly glance at the screen and any pending notifications. Again, only a small fraction of the screen is turned on to preserve battery life. Furthermore, we can peek at specific notifications by simply holding our finger over the corresponding icon. With Moto Actions, we can use additional gestures such as waving our hand to wake up the display or use it to silence an incoming phone call. It's even useful to silence the annoying alarm clock in the morning. And finally, there's Moto Voice, which provides us with instant access to Google Now's functionality. This time around, however, we can customize the launch phrase. So instead of saying the usual thing of "Okay Google," we can say something else like "Hey Moto X," or in our case, "Computer activate." So naturally, we can use it to respond to text messages, ask for the weather conditions outside, set up appointments, and even receive driving directions. Enhancing the Google Now experience, we can even use Moto Voice to post a status on our Facebook page or even take a selfie by simply speaking, "Take a selfie." This is a surprisingly swift phone, one that uses Motorola's newest mobile computing system, which is comprised out of a natural language processor, a contextual computing chip, and a quad-core 2.5 GHz Qualcomm Snapdragon 801 processor, coupled with 2 GB of RAM. Motorola cleverly coined the term clear pixel with the camera of last year's Moto X, but they've upgraded the hardware to a larger 13 megapixel sensor here, one that's complemented with an f2.2 aperture lens, a unique dual LED flash ring, and up to 4K video recording. Now, the app itself has largely remained unchanged. Most of the UI is reserved for the viewfinder. Unfortunately though, it's still light on features and almost non-existent with manual controls. That's not to say it takes away from the experience, since we have popular modes such as HDR and panoramic in tow. Yeah, it's still neat flicking our wrist twice to launch the camera app. Outdoor shots under copious levels of sunlight produce the best looking images, as there's a fine balance between details, dynamic range, and exposure. Indeed, we really like the snappiness of the camera, but there's just a small amount of over sharpening that's transposed post-shot. Under low light, noise and softer details are apparent, but its dual LED ring flash casts a potent punch to lighten up our shots, albeit it oversaturates our photos in the process. Adding to its portfolio, there's also an option to shoot 3840 by 2160 video at 29 frames per second, in addition to your standard 1080p ones. Now, it takes some good looking videos as well, but we wouldn't say it's necessarily the leader in the pack. The Gallery app has this option for highlight reel, which are short clips that are automatically compiled by the phone using photos and videos taken by the camera, similar to what HTC Zoes look like. Another feature related to the camera, Best Shot, allows the phone to magically snag the best shot, since it's able to compensate by analyzing the moments a few seconds before and after pressing the shutter key. Solely relying on the speaker below the display, the Moto X churns a resounding 74.5 decibels of power, a tally that nearly matches the HTC One M8's dual speakers. Powerful is one way of putting it, but the quality is complemented with a clear and clean tone. On the video watching side, the saturated tone on the display makes all sorts of videos come to life, so we're instantly mesmerized by its vibrancy. Featuring 4 microphones throughout its casing, they're able to work with one another to deliver an excellent overall call quality experience, as voices through the earpiece are bold, crystal clear, and audible. On the other end line, our callers have few qualms about its quality. There's a single one to be in fact, the slight tinge in our voice. It's nothing horrible to diminish the quality extravagantly, but it's something that our callers are able to notice. Upping its capacity to a 2300 milliamp hour battery, whereas before it was a 2200 milliamp hour one, we generally reach the 15-hour mark with our normal usage. In our battery benchmark tests, the Moto X pulls in 5 hours and 45 minutes before completely tapping out, and that's a mark that's sadly well behind its esteemed rivals. Pricing is once again in the handset's favor. It's rocking a $100 on-contract price point, which is pretty good considering its performance and the software features it has to offer. Outright contract though, you can pick it up for $500. So it's not the best performing Android smartphone we've checked out, but it's a pretty darn good one. You'll want to go with the new Moto X if you like its customizable design and you want an experience that's intuitive and not really cumbersome. And for the price point, you really can't go wrong with it either. So if you guys want to learn more about the new Moto X, you could check out our website, PhoneArena.com. John V, thanks for watching.